meeting of the Pacheco Stormwater District to order. Before we do anything else, we are going to swear in 3 new trustees. So if I could have, well, Paula, you're not new, but it's a new term for you. So Paula Azcona, Rochelle Beardley, and Bill Florick, if you could come forward, please. Go down there.
Stand. I'll read the oath. I will ask you to state the name. 1.2 at the end. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Sign these.
Okay. All right, congratulations, new trustees, come on up.
Sign right here. Oh, that's me, so sorry about that.
Signature.
Just signature.
All right. Just come on up and seat yourselves. Okay, Steve, before we do any of this, should we, well, I guess we have to do all this before we can do the, yeah, okay, all right. Okay, now we can proceed with the regular order of things. So we're calling the meeting to order. And the first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would any of our new trustees like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. All right, please stand.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first thing that we do is we take public comment from people in the chamber here or on Zoom. And this public comment period is for comments that are not related to any specific item on our agenda. So if people have been able to look at the agenda and what we were going to be talking about tonight, if you have comments that are specific to those agenda items, I would ask you to wait until we get to those agenda items. But if you have comments that are not related to something that is not on the agenda, this is the time to go ahead and do that. I don't know if we have any speaker cards. Did we find any speaker cards? Okay, it could be because we started late, but Abraham, do we have people on Zoom?
Madam Chair, give me 1 second to confirm that, please. We only have our county council and Zoom that I can see right now.
Okay, so it appears that in the waiting room, we only have one person, our county council. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Madam Chair, may I ask our county council if you can say something just to confirm that we are allowed with that?
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, Sean. Would you be able to say your name, please, just to make sure that we can hear you? Can you say your name, please, Sean? Sounds like we may have some audio issues. Hello, Sean. Can you say something? How about now? We're having some audio issues, but we don't have anybody on Zoom at this time, so you can proceed.
Okay, I've been told that the reason probably is that on the agenda the login information is incorrect. So I do apologize for that. We will correct it for our next meeting. But there's nothing we can do about it now, unfortunately, for those who are trying to log on Zoom. All right, so anyway, we will go back to public comment. We now have little speaker cards. They're little green cards. Does anybody in chambers have a comment that they would like to make that is not related to an item on the agenda? Okay. So actually, speaking of public comment, we do have some guidelines that we probably should read. Abraham, would you like to read those, please? Thank you.
Would like to, Madam Chair. San Benito County Pacheco Stormwater District welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the raise hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item in which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance of the chambers or with me here as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, yes. So if you would like to make a comment on an item that comes up later in the agenda, please just come forward and fill out one of those speaker cards and give it back to Abraham, and then you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. And you'll come up to the podium and identify yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. So thank you. Okay, so it does not appear that there's any public comment at this time. So we will move on to our regular agenda. So yeah, we have the consent agenda at the end this time, but I guess that's okay.
It is. So I think I recommend you make a motion to ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda now, even though it's at the end of the
Okay, so we have to vote first on,
certificate of posting.
or we could do it at the end.
Okay,
I mean,
sure.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I'm not sure, Miss.
We'll do it at the end.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we will move on to our regular agenda, and the first item is an acknowledgement and gratitude for prior trustees. And so we have one prior trustee who has not come back. And that is Armando Alfaro. And Armando, we have a certificate for you, a certificate of recognition. So I'm going to come down and give it to you. And Oh, yeah. Yeah, why don't come on then? Oh, just the screen. Here it is, your certificate. And we thank you for your service to this committee, to this board, for taking a picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando.
Okay. All right. So now we already did the swearing in, so we don't have to, we can skip over 1.2. So now we have Steve Loop updating us on debris removal and levee repair projects. And this relates back to the damage from the 2023 storms. And we're sort of at the tail end of fixing all that. But go ahead, Steve.
All right, thank you, Trustee Schrader. I just, because of the delay, I have to load up the PowerPoint, so just take a moment, please.
Okay, do we have any more of the hard copies for Rochelle and Bill? Oh, you have one. Oh, everyone's got one. Oh,
Yes, they do.
sorry.
Yep.
All right, very good.
And there should be a few extra copies in the back as well, so.
Well, Steve, maybe while we're waiting, it seems like there's not a whole lot to discuss or report on with this. Just the burning of the debris pile, right?
Correct, with the first item, and yeah, while I'm loading it up, it's, the status of the debris pile is actually the homeowner that's located at the northeast corner of the Lovers Lane Bridge. That was the last pile of all the debris that needs to be burned, and she's actually been coordinating with the fire department to start burning her piles in pieces. All the other piles have actually been burned in the past, so that's the status of that. And all the levee repairs have been completed. So on a good note, that item is almost completed from.
Yeah, so it was really just this one pile and it's gradually being burned. So that's very good. Are there any questions or comments from the trustees?
I just wanted to comment that I did check the creek during this big storm event that we had. Everything looked really great. I think we got the water level to the toe of the new riprap and seemed to have a nice flow to it. So I was not nervous.
That is good to hear. Yes, I drove by the creek a few times myself, and it seemed like things were holding up well. So that is good news.
Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item?
Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item in which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. We have no speaker cards, Madam Chair.
You want to come up, Alicia? Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not really good at this, but my name is Alicia Yanis. I am one of many who live out on Lovers Lane. And as Steve has gone over some stuff, I wanted to kind of touch on some other things on Lovers Lane. As many of you have known, We've experienced many major floods that have resulted in evacuations, severe damage, and even destruction of our properties. We understand that there is also currently a project in the works for Lovers Lane, but that will most likely not be done until spring of 2027, which will mean we will have to endure another winter after this year. With that said, me and my neighbors have gotten together and have made a list of some things that we feel need to be done for the safety of the people who live there. We have reached out many times to the county for help and are tired of getting small Band-Aids placed on something that is very broken. A small ditch dug or sandbags are not the answer for an area that is catastrophically flooded and destroyed homes on multiple occasions. We are asking, what will it take? We have several people who are disabled and are elderly. Personally, I'm a widow with a stepdaughter with a daughter who has both physical and mental disabilities. Trying to evacuate is not easy, especially during an evacuation for those who need assistance. And I believe it is the responsibility of the county to make the area safe and inhabitable for the residents. Not now, not later, but now. And here are some of the things we thought of. A trench needs to be dug continually down the street in front of our homes and dug deeper and made with either gravel or a small layer of concrete to prevent weed growth and debris. We were originally told by the county that they could come out to help us with this, but they did not, and we had to do it ourselves. The only time we received some help was on the day of the rain, where they came and dug a small trench in front of one property. It needs to continue down the road so that there is a place for the water to go. Secondly, there needs to be a deep trench dug on the opposite side of the street as well to create a water flow and prevent the water from crossing over the street onto our properties and then flooding into our garages and barns. The levee maintenance and creek maintenance need to be continued and hopefully in advance before winter storms hit. The people of Lovers Lane are not only cannot afford to rebuild or repair the constant damage to our homes and the worry about our pets and livestock, but the absolute most important thing is the safety and welfare of the residents. That's all. Okay, ready? Wait, come on.
Thank you.
Have her point out where she is on the map.
Yeah, well, usually we don't engage, but well, okay, go ahead. What was it?
I just wanted to ask Alicia, I have a map here from the formation of this district. Maybe while I'm asking if you guys could locate your property and put your name on it so that I can get familiar with where everybody is.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Are there any other comments? Okay. Oh, and Abraham, can we start the clock, the 3-minute clock? Thank you.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Okay.
My name's Danny, and I'm also at Lovers Lane. I'm here because whenever the rain come, because the way the drain pipe from all the property, it's the county they dig, deeper and deeper, and all the water, even from across the street, it flow down and go into my property. And it costs us a lot a lot of money to, whenever the water from my pond going up, go to my neighbor property, and it costs me a lot of money, for the PG&E bill to pump the water out. And like before, I called Steve, And he said, after the rain, he make the trench or something to stop the water from flow across the street because all the water from the neighborhood, it going to my property. So I don't know if there's something the county make the trench, to make it even or for the water flow somewhere else. Because I don't want to block the water flow to my property. If I do that, all the property, because they have the septic tank in the front of the property, they cannot use. And I don't want to block the water, affecting all the property. So I know something you can figure it out. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other public comment on this agenda item? Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Juan Francisco Diaz. I'm here to speak about the ongoing flood issues in our area, Lover's Lane. This is not just an inconvenience, it's a serious safety risk. I have a newborn child at home, and my dad, he's in a wheelchair. I know that a couple years back, it rained so much, it was so bad that the water reached like 4 feet high. Some people couldn't get in their cars when it was raining, and some people left their animals there and they died. So my question is, how fast can this issue be solved? Like someone had mentioned earlier, someone had told us that they can finish the project or start the project till next year, 2027. And this winter could be rough. We can have so much rain, and what am I gonna do? What are we all gonna do as a community, as neighbors? Not just that, most of our neighborhood gets flooded in the front. Our property in specific gets flooded from the back, from the swamp that we have in the back of our property that we don't know who belongs to. It's nasty water, and when it gets filled up, it comes back to our property. Our animals are in it. Our kids play around it. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right.
No more, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we'll close the public comment on this issue. Steve, do you have any follow-up for us on some of the things that have been said?
Yeah, those are all valid comments. I think what I'll do, I'll wait till 1.5 because that talks about the project and the funding that we received and the schedule. There's a couple of questions about schedule. So yeah, I'll wait till we get to 1.5. So,
great, thank you.
thanks.
All right, then, we will move on to 1.4, which is a update on the status of our FEMA applications for the damage from the last storms in 2023. So, Steve, what is the update?
Yeah, and if CMAP's in the back, we do have the slides available. Great, thank you, CMAP. So, good news is we have submitted a lot of paperwork. We still have a little bit more to submit to FEMA, but the status of payment for work done is as follows. And I do want to make something clear because I think there's a little bit of misconception about FEMA funding. So as of today, there was a project that was completed about 6 years ago for the roadway near the Lover's Lane Bridge. FEMA just paid us for that work about 2 weeks ago that occurred 6 years ago. So I only mention that because FEMA doesn't pay any agencies until after work is performed that they approve, and the agency performs the work and the agency spends the money, like the county spends the money, and then sometime in the future, FEMA sends reimbursements. And I do think they're getting faster than 6 years, but all the work that was done with the levee repairs and the creek cleanup was actually per a loan that the county gave to Pacheco Stormwater District to complete the work. So that's how the project was actually funded. But the good news is we've gone through about 11 steps of the FEMA process, and FEMA has said, okay, you've done the correct steps, and therefore we will soon, hopefully, pay back the Pacheco Stormwater District, and then the Stormwater District can hopefully pay off most of the loan or the money that was used for the cleanup to the county. And so the total cost for the debris removal, as you can see above, was $935,000. This is per FEMA's authorizations, I guess you'd say. The FEMA share is $701,000. The state share is $175,000. The remaining non-reimbursable costs, which is typically about 6% of project costs, are just not reimbursed, except in extreme cases. So that'll just remain unreimbursed. And then the FEMA management costs are $46,000. Now, all of these costs we have to justify and send paperwork to FEMA in order for them to reimburse the district with payments. So that's the debris removal. And then with the levee repairs, these are FEMA's numbers. The total cost of the project was $375,000. The FEMA share will be $281,000. State share $70,000. Remaining non-reimbursable is approximately $24,000. And then FEMA allocated management costs, which is staff costs, is $18,000. Now, so we're going to try to get reimbursement as much as possible from FEMA of all those numbers. And then hopefully FEMA will actually sometime soon send some reimbursement to the district per that process. And as of now, it looks like there's a couple more forms we have to fill out, which I'll work with the trustees to do that. Maybe only one more form. Again, we're on step 11 of the whole process. So we're getting really close to being reimbursed in a very good way. And I'll pause there for questions or comments.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So I just want to sort of emphasize what Steve just said. FEMA does not give you the money to do the work. They reimburse you. And so since the Pacheco Stormwater District did not have the money to do the repairs, the county loaned us the money so that the work that we have done, we could get done. And so now we're still working through the FEMA reimbursement process. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that the county did loan us money to do. If they hadn't, we wouldn't have been able to do any work. We'd still be running around trying to get grants or something to do the work. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that. Do the other trustees have any comments or questions for Steve on the FEMA applications status?
I just wanted a little bit of clarity. Steve, on the last, like, for example, on the debris removal, you have the remaining cost of 58 and then FEMA allocated management 46. So is that a difference then between the two?
It is. So FEMA will not reimburse us for the construction costs to the tune of $58,000. We're going to try to justify staff costs or trustee costs, but I don't know how much of the $46,000 we can prove to FEMA that we've spent, mainly because the trustees that have been wonderful to be on the trustee board for the last year volunteer their time and are not paid. And county, we're not employees of the of Pacheco Stormwater District, and so it's pretty hard to justify some of those management costs, unfortunately. Maybe we can get back a little bit, maybe, but nothing near the $46,000. So we won't get back to $58,000, and then the $46,000 for management costs, because there really is not a lot of staff working for Pacheco Stormwater District. It's going to be difficult. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
So, all right.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Please come up.
Come on up. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
My name is Marcel Beerley, San Felipe Road. Just wondering, in regards to the non-reimbursable funds that we're not getting from FEMA, but we did get a loan from the supervisors, how is that going to work? They are going to forgive us the 58 plus the 23, or how are we, since we can't get it from FEMA, how are we going to pay that back if we need to pay everything back? That's my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that has not quite been figured out yet. So. All right, is there any other public comment on this agenda item?
There is no more public comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we will now move to 1.5, which is, so now we're moving from the past, dealing with the past, to the future and what we can do to try to improve things in the future. So, Steve, please take it away.
Exactly. That's a great segue. So 2 years ago, when we were out there and the water was this high, the county, we walked door to door with FEMA and the state and said, you can see the water lines in homes, and what are we going to do about this? We requested actually funds to rebuild Lovers Lane, and FEMA said, well, it's an old road. You can't prove to us that the storms further damaged your old road. But we made the case 2 years ago. The good news is, and there's some political folks involved and some other folks, but the good news is that as of a few months ago, the federal government reached out to the state, who said what counties and cities did not get enough funding to fix their infrastructure. Fortunately, we were one of the counties that are granted $1.9 million for a project that has a direct tie back to those floods, and then $9.6 million for mitigating future floods. So very good news. And our county can use every penny of that ourselves. And so I'm going to go through some projects in a moment. There is housing assistance funding that's also available, and you can contact me afterwards or one of the trustees for possible reimbursements of some fixes and repairs that were done 2 years ago. The county is not really involved with that. That program is managed 100% by HCD, the Housing and Community Development Authority of the state of California. They manage that program, but there are possibly some funding sources for folks that repaired parts of their homes. There's probably a lot of paperwork and a fund process involved, but I'm just saying that there's additionally, besides the 1.9 and 9.6 million, there is other funds available. So good news was 2 weeks ago, these projects that I'm going to discuss were also discussed at the Board of Supervisors agenda in this room. And some of the folks in this room were there to support these projects. And before I go to this list, there was a lot of flooding that occurred throughout the county, definitely on Lovers Lane, and that area was probably the worst area, in my opinion, for flooding. But there was flooding throughout the county. And so what FEMA said, and with this funding, is we want you to fix something that you think was impacted by the storms 2 years ago. And so we're going to give you $1.9 million. So the Board of Supervisors tomorrow is going to vote on what to do with that $1.9 million. Tentatively, we'll find out tomorrow, but tentatively, they've approved the Lovers Lane reconstruction, which is enough to rebuild Lovers Lane from essentially Shore Road to 156. Obviously, the middle has been fixed, but on each side of the repairs that were done 6 years ago. So that's the good news. And that's the only infrastructure funding we have allocated for the county. So it's being dedicated to Lovers Lane, partially because of folks that have been here that have mentioned over the last few years, and especially 2 years ago, that, hey, we need help, we need assistance, we need our road rebuilt, we need the ditches improved. And I'll talk about schedules in a minute. So that's the good news. Then additionally, there's some other projects that, depends how you wound it, 9.5 or 9.6 million, that we'll talk about in a minute, that we put on our list of items, projects to be used for the 9.5 million. And one thing that HCD said with this grant is there might be counties or cities that don't use all of their funding. So they recommended asking for more than just 9.5 million. They didn't give a number, but they said sometimes there's money left over. And so I think we're being a little optimistic, but we're going to have a resolution tomorrow that includes an additional 5.6 million that may or may not be unused in the future by other counties. And I'll talk about that in a little more detail in a moment. So the projects that have been identified as mitigating future emergencies, and the way the funding is it has to mitigate future flooding or future evacuation routes, as was mentioned. That's how the Lovers Lane also helped get qualified. And so I'll go through some of the other projects pretty quick, but then I'll stop on the ones that are near the Lovers Lane area. So there's a piece of shore road we haven't been able to fix yet that's still in pretty bad shape, and it's located between Fraser Lake Road and Highway 25. It's a short segment, a little over a mile. The county didn't have funding to fix that portion yet, so that was considered if the, like, say, Lovers Lane area was flooded, if you wanted to come out and go towards Highway 25 and go out of town, that was one route that's identified for funding. Salinas Road, which is in San Juan Bautista, it's a road that goes up and over the hill to the county of Monterey. That was identified as an emergency evacuation route, and so that has been allocated per tomorrow's board meeting, $4 million that gets submitted to HCD for approval. So there's a two-step process. The Board of Supervisors has to approve these projects tomorrow or not. And then once they do, we submit them to HCD to confirm they qualify for an emergency evacuation route or a flooding situation. So another piece of that funding that we've identified is $500,000 to clean up the area on Pacheco Creek. And we've identified primarily downstream of the Lovers Lane Bridge. The northeast quadrant still has a lot of debris and things that could potentially contribute to future flooding. So we asked HCD, can we clean out that portion of the creek as far as we can go with $500,000? So that's one of the projects we're proposing. A similar situation occurs over in San Juan Bautista. It's called San Juan Creek. I won't talk about it, but it's very similar because they were flooded last two years ago, 2023 winter. Pacheco Creek watershed. So a little bit of a recap. The Pacheco Stormwater District trustees and the county, we've been trying to get extra grant funding for this whole area. And everyone keeps telling us, you need to do a watershed study of the area, complete the study, and then you can apply for some extra funding to do hopefully even more than just rebuild Lovers Lane. And so maybe there's a lot of possible things that could happen, but step one from the other agencies is to produce a study. And once we do a very specific study of the whole watershed area, then we know where some of the problem areas are in the creek, in capacity. Where is the creek too narrow, too small? There's areas upstream of the creek. When you go beyond Fairview Road, it's large. As you come downstream, there's some areas that are constricted and maybe need to be widened, improved. Maybe the levees need to be repaired. So we have to do a study. And once we do that study, then that'll allow us to apply for other funding sources and grants. So hopefully the Board of Supervisors tomorrow approves that as well. And then the other projects, Cienega Road, it's a route if you're trapped downtown and you want to get to southern part of the county, you have to go through Cienega. And then the last one is just, it's a possibility. That's the 5.6 million. If you're in South County, kind of near the Pinnacles, you go over King City Road, that is definitely an emergency evacuation route. And the road's not in great shape either. So if there's money available, the county is going to be studying how to rebuild that road. But again, for that 5.6 million, we don't know how much of that money is going to be available truly with this funding. Now, what was previously mentioned on public comment is probably fairly accurate. So as far as schedule goes, we're just tomorrow going to get approved for the projects. And then in the next month and a half, we're going to put out a list of asking for consultants to do design and environmental services for Lovers Lane. Now, if they can do those in 6 months or 5 months or 4 months, that's wonderful. But it's going to, I don't want to, give you guys false expectations that all that can occur this year. In my humble opinion, those design and environmental analysis will take us past the construction season this year, which means it's likely that the construction won't start till this spring. Now, if it can happen faster, that's wonderful. That's great. I'm just knowing how road designs and environmental processes work. I don't want to, give false expectations. The good news is some of the improvements that were discussed earlier by the public will be a part of that Lover's Lane reconstruction in that study. And so I'll just pause there, but I'm just trying to be realistic with the schedule on that note. And maybe I should pause there because that's a summary of the item. So thank you.
Okay.
The study, who's going to get the study or do the study of the creek?
So we'll have to hire a hydraulic firm, a consulting firm, and there's 3 or 4 firms available that typically provide that service. So even for that, we'll go out for an RFP, request for proposals. They'll say, we can do your study for $500,000 and it'll take 4 months or 6 months or 3 months, whatever they're going to say. And then we rank them and select the firm that's, I guess, the best value to perform the study. So it'll be a consulting firm, if that answers your question.
So, it would be pretty thorough. It would be a thorough study to the point where it's going to be satisfy our needs. You know what I mean?
Great question. Yes. So we'll reach out to some other agencies, and I think there might be an announcement a little bit later, but some good news from the Army Corps. But we'll reach out to the agencies. We'll look at the various funding sources and say, okay, what comprehensive study is needed for application to future grants, and try to make that study accommodate as many as possible of those different grants in the future with that study. So yeah, that'll be the whole goal of the study, is to make it as comprehensive as possible to allow for future grant applications.
So the whole process is going to start soon, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, so the process, if the Board of Supervisors approves this list of projects, then we submit it to HCD. They say, yes, these are reasonable projects. We've already been meeting every week with HCD. We've been talking about these projects for 2 months, so it won't be a surprise to them. So they will take probably about a month to hopefully approve these projects. And then once that's done, the county, even in the meantime, we can be putting out RFPs and RFQs with the hope that the projects are approved. So while HCD's reviewing the process, it'll probably be a month and a half or 2 to get the consultants onboarded to start those designs of both like Lover's Lane or the watershed study. We even have to do a small study of the cleanup. We have to get some environmental permits for the cleanup, unfortunately. So does that answer the question? So, okay, thank you.
I have a question, Steve.
Okay.
So Shore Road, you said it's like about a mile and it's 1.6 million to fix that. So what are we looking at on Lover's Lane reconstruction? It's 1.9. Are we looking from Shore all the way to 152, or is it just, because those numbers are similar?
That is excellent. So first of all, I rounded down. The Shore Road segment's about 1.2 miles, so it's a little bit longer than I said. And you're right. For Lover's Lane, it's about 1.9. It's 2 miles, this stretch that we have to improve. The good thing about Lover's Lane versus Shore Road is one of our arterial roads, so it has to have a thicker pavement section. So they'll both be rebuilt, but Lover's Lane, it'll be thick enough for, hopefully not the semi-trucks that go through, but semi-trucks that cut through. It'll be thick enough for them, but on a continuous basis, it doesn't have to be as thick as like Shore Road itself or Highway 25. So it's slightly less cost per mile. So that's a great question to construct Lover's Lane than, for example, Shore Road. Like Shore Road, we just built the sections like this thick, but Lover's Lane, it'll be a little bit thinner because you're not supposed to have as much traffic on Lover's Lane. And again, it'll be made for semi-truck traffic, even though we don't want semi-truck traffic. It'll be designed for semi-truck traffic on Lover's Lane. So yeah, good question.
So right now that you mentioned that, the northern part of Lover's Lane from the bridge, when that got wiped out back in 99, I think it was. It was just when we first moved in. And that construction, the quality of what that road is like, it's not that great. So this last construction on the southern part from the bridge, that's top notch.
Yep.
Because it already had a flood just go right over it, and it did not do any damage to that road whatsoever.
Great point. So that'll be the more similar or the more recent construction, that'll be the similar process as will be implemented for this future project. Because you're right. Everything you said is correct. I'll just say that. So, yes.
Are they two different companies?
Well, I think there were two different designs of road section, I think is what it is. Yes. The road thickness. Yes. So.
And on the Lovers Lane construction, do you plan on incorporating like the ditches or big drainage stuff? So it's going to be more than just a repaving?
Correct. So when we direct that consultant, we'll say, yes, we got to rebuild the road, but like was stated by Public and yourself, there's definitely some drainage improvements that need to occur to either route water more appropriately or more efficiently, take your pick on verbiage. But yeah, the county has right of way beyond those ditches that we'll be able to work in those areas and improve things.
Okay. And then follow up on that creek study. Do you think that we can kind of put an emphasis on making or approving or justifying that our creek is a passageway for the steelhead? Because in my grants, looking for grants and talking to different agencies, they seem to really keep bringing that one up. It's a really good way for us to be known, I guess.
It's 100% correct. I'm not going to judge on whether the steelhead can get into that area, but if we can make that argument or provide some evidence that that's possible, it definitely helps open up possibilities for a lot of additional grants.
Yeah.
When you have a special species fishy critter that you can help with their environment and their habitat, it does open up a lot of additional grants. So when we scope the grant, we'll reach out to anyone in this room and say, let us know your ideas for the study. If you know of a grant that might want to qualify for, it would be great if we can make the case for the steelhead. So.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. One, as Steve mentioned, this hasn't been officially approved by the Board of Supervisors yet. That's going to be done at the meeting tomorrow. And I was at the previous meeting, as were Bill and Lucinda Florek, and we all spoke in favor of it. But if anybody can go to the Board of Supervisors meeting tomorrow to, again, reemphasize that this pot of money that the county is receiving, that we would like it to be spent in the way that Steve has suggested. There's 3 different projects in our district: the Lovers Lane reconstruction, and then the Pacheco Creek cleanup and the Pacheco Creek watershed study. It does make a difference when the board hears from members of the public. If people show up and care enough about it, I think it does emphasize the importance of the projects. And the board is, well, I don't think this is likely to happen. They are at liberty to change these numbers, right? And spend the money in a different way if they so choose. So if anybody can go to that meeting tomorrow, that would be helpful. I did notice that it's towards the end of the agenda, unfortunately. So it's not going to be heard right at 9 a.m. We were there all morning, actually, on the 13th. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it works. But you can, though, make comments online, too. You can attend online, and they do take comments online as well. So that's another option if anybody would like to do that. The other thing that I wanted to say, I'm so happy that this is coming to fruition. We've been talking about it now for almost a year, I think. I'm wondering, Steve, whether we need, I'm concerned about the permits and getting that process going, and whether we should start that, I mean, after tomorrow, when we get the approval from the board, and whether we should form a subcommittee of a couple of trustees to start working on that issue.
And you're referring to item number 3, Pacheco Creek cleanup?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, right. The Pacheco Stormwater District doesn't really have too much to do with the Lover's Lane reconstruction. And the watershed study, that's, yeah, I'm talking about the creek cleanup specifically, yes.
Yeah, I would encourage that subcommittee 100%, and there will be permitting involved. And so when we do our RFP for all these 7 projects, obviously we're going to ask for some assistance from an environmental firm, probably similar to the firm from the gentleman. It could be any environmental firm, but we had a speaker, like you said, 6 months ago, maybe, from Denise Duffy Associates, and he kind of went through all the different permits and things that are needed for just cleaning the creek, unfortunately. But we'll need some help from a firm like that to get us through the permitting process. I think the county's going to utilize an environmental consultant, but 100%, folks in this room, a couple folks from the trustee board here can reach out to the county and be a part of that effort, so to speak. So it would be the county then that would be getting the permits, we wouldn't need to do this necessarily. I mean, since we're the ones with the right of way in the creek. Yeah, so the way that HCD presented it, which is a good thing or bad thing, is that the county would just essentially get permission from the district, and we've discussed this multiple times with HCD, that for folks that don't know, the county doesn't own any of the creek. We own by the bridges, the Lover's Lane Bridge and San Felipe Bridge. The county doesn't own any rights in the creek. So we'll have to team with the water district, but the county will be the project manager for the funding, essentially. So once the district says, yes, you have permission to clean our creek, then we'll essentially take it from there and manage the project, if that answers the question, with any input from the trustees or anyone that wants to provide input to the counties.
Okay, well, it sounds like then that you're going to go through the county process, working with the consultants.
Correct, yeah. And yeah, so you won't have to manage an environmental consultant team and go through that process yourselves, if that's the question.
Now, what about, we're obviously going to need to notify the owners when things finally start happening and people are down in the creek and on levees doing things. Is the county going to take care of that? Or, I mean, we have an outreach committee, or we did have an outreach committee on this board, and I wanted to see if we could form another one to start reaching out to property owners, in particular the people who own the property right along the creek. So
I'm sorry, what was the question though?
Oh, the question is, I mean, do we need to take care of doing that outreach, or is the county planning to do that?
So for outreach, the county will reach out to property owners for work or for a consultant that's going to be working in the creek. And yeah, if Pacheco's, it can be either or, I guess, is your question. Okay. Either the Pacheco Stormwater District team can perform the outreach, or we would want to at least be involved to some degree.
Well, I wanted to do that anyway, and I wanted to form an outreach committee. We have been working on outreach efforts. We've been working on a postcard for a long time. That's not on the agenda, so we can't, unfortunately, approve anything tonight. But I did want to maybe figure out who among the 4 of us was going to be working on some of those outreach issues. Both media outreach, or like postcards, and then also I would like to start reaching out to property owners individually and having one-on-one discussions with them.
That'd be great.
So do I have any volunteers to be on the outreach committee? Okay.
We'll be doing an active list.
So you can turn on your mic.
I would be happy to volunteer for that, but I would like to request an active updated list.
Yes, and I apologize for that. That should have been a board item. There's 2 items that were not actually included on this list. We had some technical difficulties, so no excuses, but yes, you'll have the list ASAP. So.
Herman Garcia, I think it's the one that came out and talked to us several.
It's at the base. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did that do it? Oh, here we go. I think his name is Herman Garcia that came out and talked to us from Shear. Is he a part of the 5 million or 0.5, or is he independent?
He's independent, and for folks that aren't aware, there's a group called Shear. What they do is they remove loose debris and trash out of areas such as Pacheco Creek. So when it's dry, a little drier, they'll go in and they'll take out tires and old branches and just loose debris things that aren't not attached to the creek. They actually have a permit from the state to do that. So it's a different group, and they're usually, they appreciate donations, but a lot of times they just do those cleanups for free. You just have to schedule with them. So.
I see. Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Bill actually anticipated my next question, which was, how does Cheer fit into all of this? And what is your recommendation? I mean, we had been started talking with Cheer. We could get Cheer out there even before any of this happens?
Absolutely, and I think Herman Garcia, as Bill mentioned, he did some reconnaissance of the creek already per those meetings. I don't know how far he went. He said he made a site visit to the creek. I think he did mention it needs to be a little bit drier for his team to get in there to do much cleanup, but that's his passion and his team's passion. They want to go in a creek, clean out as much debris and garbage, kind of like we've been doing over the last 2 years. You know, that's what their team does, basically. Yeah. So, yep, it's a completely separate effort. So.
Okay, well, so we could probably have a committee to keep talking with Cheer.
I'll make contact with him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is there anyone else? Because we can have 2, now that we have 4 people, we can have 2 trustees on any subcommittee without violating the Brown Act. In other words, without having to have it be a public meeting, because now a quorum is 3. So I can be, okay. Who would like to be on the outreach committee with Rochelle? And who would like to be on the cheer committee with Bill?
It's just probably making contact with him and have him come out, and we just need probably approval from you guys from, going on the property.
All right, okay, so you'll take care of cheer.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can work with Rochelle on outreach.
Great.
Okay. And Paula, would you like to, well, I'm sure there'll be more committees. So just let me know what you'd like to work on. All right.
Can I ask a quick question on the cheer thing really quick?
Okay, sure.
Granted that we have high water in the creek right now, and I'm curious about that also, but I'm looking around everywhere in the valley, and all of a sudden we have percolating ponds everywhere. So it's interesting. But if the creek is an issue because of the water level, what about the levee? Like cleaning up the top of the levee so that we can walk our levees?
So is this a cheer question?
Yes.
So I would say possibly. Again, any debris, garbage, loose things, they will come in. They prefer non-organics versus organics, but
okay.
I would just encourage you to reach out to Cheer and ask that question. So.
All right, well, we have not taken public comment yet on this agenda item, 1.5. We've been talking about it for a while, so I want to stop before I forget to do that. So is there any public comment at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Pacheco Stormwater District welcomes your comments. Please approach the podium and state your name and the county in which you reside. For the record, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Lucinda Fort. In regards to this, while I was listening to the subject of the outreach, I was a little bit uncertain of what was concluded. But my understanding is that for the projects that Steve was mentioning, he was going to do an outreach to the owners for the projects and get the permits and everything. I kind of like that the county should take responsibility for that, because just for speed and making sure everything, all the dots and the T's get marked correctly, while we as a board district be more of a supportive part of that. Because I think speed is an issue here that I'm concerned with all the projects, and making sure they all get done quickly. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. My recommendation.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this agenda item? All right, then we will move on to 1.6, which is announcements. And as Steve mentioned, we do have one good announcement, good news. So would you like to explain that, Steve, or would you like me to talk about it?
Either way, but I think since the trustees, in my opinion, have done a great job of reaching out to the Army Corps, I would encourage you to give a little bit of background and provide an update. And if you want me to fill in any information afterwards, I will do that.
Great, thank you. Yes, so there are a lot of government agencies that have some relation to the creek and the levees, and one of them is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And they, as the name suggests, they're a federal agency that does projects. And one of the projects that they work on is flood management and repairing levees and building levees. And in fact, I was always under the impression that the Army Corps had something to do with our levee, that they had built at least part of it. I'm not sure about all the details. I don't know if they built all of it, but they had some involvement with it. So anyway, fast forward to after 2023, when we reformed this board, we have reached out to them. And actually, Paula and Rochelle went to several meetings with the Army Corps and got a lot of contact information. And we got, they have a few different projects, actually. And last March, we submitted letters of interest for 2 of their projects, one of which is a review of the levee, a levee review, and then another project was, and they have different divisions, of course. So there's the levee review division, and then there was the floodplain management, I think is the division. So we submitted letters saying that, you know, as a district, we were interested in getting help from the Army Corps, whatever they could provide. And you know, we were told, well, there's a queue, there's a waiting list, so just submit your letter and we'll get back to you. And so just last week, we got an email from one of our contacts on the levee review side saying that they were ready to move forward with a review of our levee if we were still interested in that. And so I said, well, we didn't vote on it, but I said, yes, we're still interested. And I mean, we had talked about it at length, actually, last spring. So so the levee review is basically, I have some material here that I can just read quickly from. They're going to come out and take a look at the condition of the levees and tell us what we need to do to improve them. And this is important for a couple of different reasons. One, it will give us ideas on what to prioritize. It may also open up other avenues for grant money, especially to be able to say, hey, we had the U.S. Army Corps out here to look at this whole thing. In addition, it is going to be very important for the 8499. So that was the third project. There's a program, it's called the PL 8499 program. And basically, this is a real simplification, and if anybody has anything to add on it, please do. But basically, if you register with under this PL 8499 and you meet certain conditions, your levies have to be they have to meet certain conditions, then if there is a flood, you can get a lot of assistance afterwards. That's my understanding. Is that correct? Is that a good summary?
Yes.
Right, okay. And so Steve and I had meetings with Army Corps and told them, we're not sure that how the levees are in great shape. I mean, the ones that were repaired are probably in pretty good shape, but the rest of it, not so much. And so they had kind of discouraged us from moving forward with the 8499 until we had taken care of some of these other issues. So now, with them coming out to do the levy review, they'll be able to tell us exactly what we need to do to be able to get ready to participate in 8499. So that's a lot of acronyms and numbers. I'm sorry about that. But the bottom line is that they're going to come out, they're going to do a study and tell us what we need to do to get our levies in shape. And there are 4 key phases. I have a whole, they do initial outreach and levy data refinement. And then there's phase 2 is planning and preparation. So they're going to request information from us and we're going to have online meetings with them. Then phase 3 is on-site activities. So they will actually come in person and look at the levy, and then there'll be some in-person meetings. And then phase 4, they will do a review. They will go through a series of reviews, and we will have an opportunity to provide feedback. And this is going to happen this year. It's from what they're saying. The first 5 weeks is the pre-coordination. Well, actually, it's more than that. I guess it's about 12 weeks of coordinating. And then 1 week prior to the visit, they call us and we do something else. And then the on-site visit is a 2 to 3 day thing where they conduct a comprehensive field inspection and assessment, working alongside the levy owner, well, in this case, levy owners, to develop preliminary recommendations. So my sense is that this will happen maybe late spring. That might be a little optimistic, but that's from the time frame that they're giving me here. That's what it looks like. So I think that we're going to have to do outreach for this too, because they're going to want to be on the levies. So go ahead.
Yeah, we'll just notify the individual property owners. The property owners essentially generally own to the center of the creek, on either side of the creek. And so we'll just notify the property owners that we'll be accessing your levy and maybe need to access through their property sometimes to get to the levy. Although if you start on one end and go to the other, a lot of times you can just stay on the levy. But yeah, we should reach out to the property owner and say, let us know if it's not okay to be walking along the levees and taking some measurements and things. And that's it. So.
Yeah, so any comments or questions about that?
So the communication that goes on with these, with their observations and their assessments, is that going to go through you, Steve, or who's going to receive the feedback on that?
Yeah, it'll go through Public Works, and more importantly, it'll go through the trustees. Michelle's the main contact at this point, and she's been on the emails as well. So it's really for the Pacheco Stormwater District. It's not for the county in a good way. And so, and then the assessments, the analysis is performed by Army Corps staff, as Michelle mentioned, and yeah, hopefully by late spring, early summer, make some progress. But it's very good news, thanks to the efforts of the trustees and folks that have been involved here. So.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Yes, and I mean, there are going to be some in-person meetings. Again, we could have at least one other person be a part of those meetings, one other trustee be a part of those meetings. So if anybody is interested, I think we still have some time. We're going to have another meeting in April. But if anybody is interested in being part of that committee.
Can I add something? May I propose that we start a committee on the O&M manual because
Yes.
very important.
Yeah, and actually that, somewhere I read that was one of the things that they would be helping us with, I believe. Where did I read that? I read that somewhere.
Okay, so if that's the case, well, either way.
Yeah, okay. You're right. We should have a committee on that. I was hoping that they would give us guidance on that. And I can
I've
clarify
already reached
that.
out to them on the guidance aspect of it, and they did send an example,
Yeah.
which I forwarded to you, but we're just burning oil at this point, and I think we really need to move forward on this O&M. I'm very ready to start it with somebody. I have no clue what I'm doing either, but we just start.
Okay.
It's a matter of, I think, putting the historical stuff together in that O&M, and then the current stuff that we did. I think that's a good start. In
Okay.
terms of the legalities of it and the legitimacy of it, you can assist on that for sure.
Okay.
If you're interested.
All right. I certainly can.
Great.
Yeah. All right. So you and I will do that.
Okay, great.
The O&M manual.
And I wanted to add one more thing too. If they're going to be doing a levee inspection, don't you think it's important that we get our levees, the top of it, walkable? Because I know my area is certainly not walkable. I'll be, it's wild. So is that where cheer comes in? Before we meet with them to prep the area?
I think that will be important, and we'll discuss that for the first probably 2 meetings with Army Corps. But yes, the more accessible the levee is, then the better, and the more thorough the assessment can be performed when they're there. Even when we had FEMA in 2023, there was areas of levees that were almost inaccessible. So even back then. So yes, the more accessible your levee is, the better the analysis can be and more thorough.
So do we get cheer on that like in April? How do we move in that direction with cheer?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we have to figure out which areas are going to need that, right? Because not all of them do. So do you have a sense of that, Steve? Which areas need the...
I think the first thing we should do is let's discuss which areas they're going to map. Are they going to map all the way from Fraser Lake to Casa de Fruta, or what is the Pacheco Creek levee assessment, right? And once they define the limits, then believe it or not, I think, and we might have to do this again, we could use the CAL FIRE drone footage. For folks that are listening, we actually had CAL FIRE fly a drone along the creek. It might have been a little bit too high in altitude. So to do levee assessment, general type things, this was approximately 6 months ago. But to answer your question, Trustee Schrader, that video might be applicable for where the levees need to be cleaned up. Or we can ask CAL FIRE to, fly a little bit lower in lower altitude along the levee and maybe get a little higher resolution or zoomed in areas to help. I think that's probably the most efficient way to assess which areas are accessible and which areas are not accessible. So,
don't you think they'll just focus on the Pacheco Stormwater District region, which is 2.6 miles?
I would assume that's the region, but I don't know. With Army Corps, as was mentioned earlier, I think way back when they did do some levee improvements somewhere downstream around Lover's Lane, way back in the 40s. I'm not exactly sure. We'll let them provide the input in that direction, but they might want to go further than just Pacheco Stormwater District. The study is going to be a watershed study, a different subject, but the study is going to study the entire watershed. And I don't know if they want to study all of the levees, in the watershed or just in Pacheco Stormwater District. So we should clarify that when we meet with them over the next couple months. So.
Do you know where the levees start? Is it on our the Pacheco Creek Bridge where that starts and just goes down to the Lover's Lane Bridge? I don't know if we all have levees.
It goes beyond the Lover's Lane Bridge.
Yeah, and it's a great question for folks that and maybe this is what Trustee Brearley's getting at, is essentially a levee is when the adjacent land to a waterway or a river or a creek is the surface area of that land is lower than the water that's being contained and the land around the levee. So in other words, if you head upstream of San Felipe Road, essentially the adjacent land is at the same level. There's no, I'll say mounds for a better word. And so those wouldn't necessarily be a levee. They're just a river system. And so it's a great question. The primary area for the levees is definitely within Pacheco Stormwater District, just to keep it simple. So, yeah.
All right. Are there any other comments from oh, well, actually, it's okay. So, I mean, so if you're going to be the point of contact for Cheer,
Yes.
perhaps you could work with them to identify those areas. I mean, I know, on our property, part of our levee is walkable. We walk on it every day. Part of it is not. So it just sort of depends.
Right, yeah, no, we're in the same boat. Yeah, so, yeah, I'll bring it up and see what they can do. And we'll try to convince them to, go ahead and clear out what they can, if they can, what they're allowed to clear. Right. I mean, there's restrictions and this and that from what I gather, but if they can, then, we'll just direction,
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, and the restrictions are different inside the creek as opposed to on top of the levees, too.
Right. I would think, yeah.
There's less restriction, I believe, on the levees, I would imagine. So, okay. Well, then, and maybe it will require another walkthrough, and again, outreach to the individual property owners in those areas that are going to need help there.
Right, okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, are there any, what was that? Oh, did you? Yeah. Yeah, I think all four of us do, actually, on this board. Okay. Let's see, is there any other comment specifically about that Army Corps levy review? Or questions about that? Okay, do any of the trustees have any other announcements?
Like any other announcements?
Well,
Regarding that.
Well, related to our district, yeah.
Well, I was just reviewing the historical documents a couple of days ago, and it looks like our district is covering over 1,200 acres. That's quite large. So I think they looked at it in terms of acres versus properties,
Yeah.
So obviously we want to make an effort to conserve and preserve the farmland and the ranches that are all affected by this. But I was wondering if we could put on the agenda. Is this the time to make for
That'll be next item. We'll talk about agenda items.
good.
This is more for like if there are any meetings coming up that you think people should be going to, or anything like that.
I don't have any meeting information.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is there any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Pacheco Stormwater District welcomes your comments. Please approach the podium and state your name and the county in which you reside for the record. You have 3 minutes. And we have no public comment, Madam Chair.
All right. Then we will get to our final item on the regular agenda. And not forgetting to do the consent agenda at the end. This is a discussion of future agenda items. So do the trustees have any suggestions for future agenda items?
I can start if you don't.
Okay.
So future agenda items, I'd like to follow up with the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency. I met with Mark Stridley on my levy a few months ago. He is a wealth of information. I did follow back with him regarding your request to have him speak. He was very willing to.
Okay.
We just need to give him enough time, and he'll come into our group and give us a lot of knowledge. He is part of this Pajaro group that is very active in shoring that whole problem up, and he's made a very big difference, and I hope he can lead us in the right direction. I also wanted to put on the agenda budget for us and the inclusion of an existing water tax that's already on our property bills, our property tax bills. And if we can get in on that, based on our original filing, which is, can you help me out with that? Was it the Stormwater District Act of 1909?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the, we were formed under that law.
And that law grants us the right to publicly tax, I guess. But of course, I know
Well,
nothing
yes, it
about
does.
that,
It
so.
does. It certainly does. I don't, we'll have to investigate what this existing tax is, though. Because
Right.
right now, there's no property tax assessment specifically for the Pacheco Stormwater District at this time.
Right.
So,
if we could discuss that, how to get on or meet with the existing tax that's on there for a different water district, if it might apply or whatever.
okay, sure.
And I would like us to also have a work on developing a maintenance manual or a maintenance agreement, so that that was really strongly suggested by Mark. If we know what we want to do, if we know what we want to tackle, it has to be laid out there, and then that's our Bible. That's how we operate. And so not only just the O&M manual, but as well as the maintenance manual. So if we could address those few issues, I think that would help us. And I think that's it.
Okay. Do the other trustees have any suggestions for future agenda items?
The only thing I could suggest, just off the top of my head, is just keep the grants coming in. Somehow we have to just keep, so I'm not sure how we can address that, but that's something that we really need to keep one after another as much as we can. It's just, we can't really, wait too much on those if we can, try to apply for the next one and so on, or however the process has got to be in that regard. But,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any other suggestions? All right. Is there any public comment?
The Pacheco Stormwater District welcomes your comments. Please approach the podium and state your name and the county in which you reside for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Marcel Burley, in regards to future agenda items, trying to find out who the webmaster is. We developed the logo. I haven't seen it anywhere yet. I would like to find out. I mean, I don't know if Victor was our webmaster or not, or if I work with Steve. Somebody has to do some updates. I would like to make sure that the public knows when our next meeting is. Very easy to find. Maybe meeting notes, the videos that we're recording. Somebody needs to update something in order for us to get momentum and have people interested. And so the postcard has been, we've been working on the postcard for a long time.
Yes,
so
yeah.
the 4x4 sign that we are wanting to put up somewhere, yes, we talked about it in the past, and we're like very close, I think. And so these things need to be wrapped up. And so we probably need to put them on the agenda in order to just kind of decide, have the trustees decide on that. And that's all I had from the notes from the last meeting.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
No additional public comment, Madam Chair.
Okay. And then, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And The only thing on the consent agenda is the certificate of posting. Did we ever approve the meeting minutes in the last meeting?
No, Trustee Shreya, the gentleman that was working on the meeting minutes, he's not a staff member with the county, so we'll have to post those. Occasionally we have to post double meeting minutes, so we'll have to post double meeting minutes for the next agenda.
At the next.
That's
agenda.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
You go. Anyway, yes. Yes, I move to approve.
The consent agenda.
Yes, the consent agenda.
Okay, and is there a second to that motion? Okay, all right, there is a second. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Oh, wait, don't tell me, do I need to do public comment on the consent agenda?
Yes. if it's okay.
Oh, okay. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda?
Please approach the podium and state your name and the county in which you reside. For the record, you have 3 minutes. There's no public comment.
Okay, all right, so let's do that again. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I approve the consent agenda.
Or you move to?
I move to
that we
approve the consent
approve the
agenda.
consent agenda. Okay, is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. And now finally, the last item is to adjourn. Our next meeting is in April. We meet quarterly now. And it's usually the last, so it'll be April 27th, I guess, is our next meeting. Is there a meeting to adjourn? I'm sorry. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I motion to adjourn today's meeting of January 26th, and we meet again April 27th.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you to all the members of the public. We'll see you in April.